Hey losers, welcome back to a new episode here at Zero Loser Studio. My name is Boshi, and today we're going to be talking about the history of Tomb Raider and why she's such an iconic character in gaming history. So, who can forget about Tomb Raider, also known as Lara Croft? Lara Croft is always regarded as a sensual and sexual version of James Bond and Indiana Jones. Her story and her character was first being developed in 1994 by a dev team called Core Design. The first game was launched on October 25th of 1996, and it was a commercial and critical success. Who would have known that a British woman with triangular titties would shake the gaming industry forever? I mean, just look at her. Just all polygon, amazing, beautiful, talented, wonderful. The game was so successful that it actually changed the direction of where games were going 3D wise. I mean, a lot of games back then worked with a lot of rendered backgrounds, but Tomb Raider and Super Mario 64 laid the blueprint to shift from rendered backgrounds over to full-on 3D backgrounds. That's how big of an influence Tomb Raider was. Because of how successful the first game was, Core Design started to release a new Tomb Raider game every year for the next 4 years. So we have Tomb Raider 1, Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider 3, and the last of that line of Tomb Raider games, Tomb Raider The Last Revelation. Tomb Raider The Last Revelation did so beyond well that it actually got on Sony's greatest hits, but unfortunately it was the last Tomb Raider game to be on Sony's greatest hits. Every game, 1, 2, 3, 4, Last Revelations was just hit after hit after hit, and they were just riding the wave of success. And of course, with fame, there does come some critiques. A lot of people thought that Lara Croft was very hypersexualized. I mean, the argument there was, who is raiding tombs in booty shorts looking all sexy as hell? Listen, my argument is Lara is a grown woman, she's rich, she got money, she a bad bitch, she can do whatever she wants. And also, if you talk to a lot of the Tomb Raider fan bases, whatever gender you want to speak with, they all agree that the games really don't hypersexualize Lara Croft as much as people think they do. I mean, don't get me wrong, during Tomb Raider's advertisements, it was very sensual. They'd be very self-aware advertisements, like they know that she looks very too sexy to be out there raiding tombs, but that was a joke in most of their advertisements. A lot of fans kind of look past it. If you do play the older games, she really does have a lot of personality. She's very headstrong, very secure with herself, very confident in herself. She's not OP. She does have her weaknesses, like she can be very stubborn, very greedy with her own goals and whatnot. She's still a badass. People really love her. I feel like, personally, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be sexy and also kicking ass. Literally, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be fine as hell, like Bayonetta. Let's talk about her for a second. She's fine as fuck, and she fights demons all the time, and it's fine. It's fine. Like, I mean, I get the argument where some clothing can be a little bit questionable during like certain video games, but I don't know. Tomb Raider it's a little different. I feel like it's kind of what makes her personality. Like, her being sexy is her being confident in herself and all that. So obviously those critiques did affect the newer Tomb Raider design, but I'll get into that later in the video. So the origin story for this Tomb Raider, there's not really much to it. In Last Revelations, they finally do present some sort of a origin story. She's 16 in the game, in the beginning of the game, with her mentor, and they pick up an item, there's a booby trap, she escapes, but he doesn't escape from the booby trap. So that kind of persuades her and influences her to be who she is now. That's really it to Lara, but other than that, she just does whatever she wants. Like I said, she's literally rich. She owns a mansion. Like, she does whatever she wants. So after Revelations, Core Design did release another game for the PS1, which is Chronicles, but that was actually a really bad game. It did not do well. It just kind of was episodic and picked up from the last game, and it didn't do well. So of course, after the flop of Chronicles and then some other, I'll put some pictures here, little side games for the Game Boy, the PS2 was coming out soon, and because Tomb Raider did continue to be very successful with the previous games, Hollywood was now making a movie about Tomb Raider starring Angelina Jolie. Those are very not good movies, and if you want to know more about video game adaptation movies, go back to Ito's previous video. He actually talks about video game movie adaptations and how bad they are. Oh, some of them are good, but yeah, we'll put the link somewhere here. Go watch it. So core design was now under immense pressure because of a new Hollywood movie coming out. And the PS2, well, while they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do, was coming out and then already came out. So they had to compete with new games that have been out, and they had to make sure that they launched the game at the same time the movie comes out, or around the same time the movie comes out. Unfortunately, they had so many delays just because they were under so much pressure. They didn't really have the time and liberties they did to perfect the game because, you know, they were new to the PS2 graphics and they were still trying to figure out the kinks out, but Hollywood was like, fans were like, so what did they do? Well, on June 20th, 2003, they finally dropped the game, a new rebooted series for the PS2, Tomb Raider: Angel of Darkness. Where can I start with that game? That game single-handedly almost destroyed the entire franchise, and I don't mean it in a positive way. I mean, that thing literally almost killed off the entire franchise. It was such a commercial and critical flop. It was just hit after hit. The movie didn't do well. The game was a wreck. Let me talk to you guys about the game. So Angel of Darkness. So it was the early 2000s. Everybody wanted to be edgy as fuck around that time, which is fine. I mean, whatever, cultural movement. Everyone wanted to be dark and edgy, so that's what they did for Laura. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, she killed people. She was a badass. But this one, they made her like really like edgy. And they changed the origin story for this one because, like I said, this is rebooted now. This is a new series that Core Design wanted to do. And this one, the mentor mentioned Revelations that got killed is, well, presumably murdered, is now in this game, but then she is framed for killing him because he dies between an altercation with Laura, and now she has to clear her name while also investigating a dark cult that's doing supernatural shit. So that's the plot for that one, but the plot's fine. Like, that sounds like an interesting plot. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that the game had so many goddamn bugs. First of all, they implemented a stamina system into the game, which a lot of people really disliked. They tried to give it a little RPG element, like throughout time you can improve your stamina, you can improve other aspects of Lara, but the cameras were bad, the controls were very wonky. Sometimes you could miss trying to hit an enemy, the enemy boxes weren't there correctly. It was just not a complete game either. There was a lot of plot missing because there was a lot of plot holes. There was one bug that completely ruined the game, and I actually experienced it myself because I owned a copy of Angel of Darkness. When the game was initially shipped out, there was a bug. I believe it was the first shipments of the game. The bug was called Fatal Error, and what Fatal Error does is it's random. The game could be running perfectly fine, your playthrough is fine, and then this screen shows up. Fatal error. We don't know how that happens, but what happens when you get the fatal error is it completely ruins your gameplay. That save file is corrupted. You have to start over. I have gotten that file, that error, so many times throughout my playthroughs when I was a lot younger. I never finished it, and that's what happened to a lot of people who purchased the game. They would get this fatal error sign, and they couldn't beat the game. It will be so random. Sometimes you can get it at the beginning of the game, sometimes you can get it in the middle of the game, sometimes you can get it at the end of the game. That happened to me. Near the end of the game, I got that fucking error. No, I'm not playing this fucking game. I can't complete the game. People could not complete the fucking game. What Core Design did was, okay, well, we could refund you or exchange it. The problem is, for the people who decide to exchange Angel of Darkness, you run the risk of exchanging for another copy with that bug. There was no way to track down those that had the bug. So if you had it, you're fucked. There's a 50-50 chance that you can go back to the store, return it for another copy and be fine, or just have another copy with the same bug. And that ruined so many people's expectations. They flopped so bad that they had to give up the rights to Crystal Dynamics. Crystal Dynamics was like, all right, this was a shit show. We're gonna reboot the series again, because Angel of Darkness was supposed to be another trilogy on the PS2. Core Design had other plans to continue Angel of Darkness, but now Crystal Dynamics owns it. They were like, we want no association with Angel of Darkness. That game did not exist. We're rebooting that shit again. So what they do? They rebooted that shit again. So a few years later, they came out with a new game, still on the PS2, and that game was called Lara Croft Tomb Raider Legend, which came out April 7th, 2006. And it was a hard reset too. Like, they actually changed her origin story. Let me make this really, really short. Basically, she got into a plane accident with her mother when she was very, very young. They tried to find their way out. They stumbled upon an altar, which is Excalibur. Yes, this game is very King Arthur lore. And the mom pulls the sword out and then she gets taken to Avalon. So then when she gets older, now she has to find a way to bring her mother back from Avalon. That is the premise of the story. And also she is in a race to get to Avalon with her old college friend, Amanda, which is one of the main villains in the game. The game actually did very, very well, and this game single-handedly saved the entire series. Like, that was one of my favorite games growing up. Legend was so good. Like, it was done perfectly. Laura was very likable, very relatable, still very sexy, not edgy anymore, like not that cringy edgy. And they introduced side characters that help her out through her journey, like Zip, Alistair, and her butler, Winston. They're all very funny characters. I also really, really enjoy the way they talk to each other. They talk to each other via like headset, like Alistair or Zip would give her information while she is doing her thing, raiding tombs, finding artifacts, and their banter is like very funny. It's a very funny game. Like I said, I played this game so many times, and it's actually a fan favorite among a lot of Tomb Raider fans because the game was so successful. The next game, it wasn't a direct sequel, but since it's been 10 years, like a 10th year anniversary since the first game came out, the same devs released Tomb Raider Anniversary, essentially a remake or remaster of the 1996 Tomb Raider. It was received very, very well as well. Of course, there were some tweaks to the plot, tweaks to certain missions here and there, which is normal for every remaster slash remake. There's always gonna be something a little bit different from the original. There's never gonna be like a copy and paste. But it did really, really well, and there was really no complaints from the fans. They loved it. It was like a love letter to the fans. It did so well that then Crystal Dynamics was like, okay, well, Legend did good. The 10th year anniversary remake did well, so let's just do a direct sequel to Legend, which is Tomb Raider Underworld, which came out November 18, 2008. That game also did very, very, very well. It was a fan favorite, and they brought back the main villain from the first game. So basically, Crystal Dynamics tried to reconnect the first game to Legend and to then Underworld. So they were trying to make it canon, which is why they tweaked certain plot elements in the 10-year anniversary remake. It did really, really well. There was no complaints from anybody except for, basic like, oh, controls here, controls there. All three games, trilogy did amazing. What should we do now that Tomb Raider is now back on top, doing its thing, being successful? Well, Square Enix bought Crystal Dynamics. So what did Square Enix do now that they bought Crystal Dynamics and own rights to Tomb Raider? They scrapped the whole storyline of Legend and decided to make their own Tomb Raider. They decided to venture into Laura before Tomb Raider. Square Enix was like, hey, let's make a game about Laura before she became Tomb Raider. That'd be cool, right? And everyone was like, okay. At first, it was an interesting concept to me. I was like, yeah, okay, that'd be interesting. What did Laura do, or how did Laura become the Tomb Raider? So Square Enix did it, and the game came out in 2013, and it's just called Tomb Raider. Now, Tomb Raider did pretty well. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good game. They did change her design, so no more booty shorts, and she's not that badass, confident, it's on site Laura anymore. This is a very timid, very vulnerable, very insecure Laura, which makes sense because she is a college graduate and this is her first expedition in the game. And they wanted to basically show character development in Laura. People received the remake and the reboot pretty well. Like I said, I personally liked it myself. I did like seeing this new side of Laura because this is her coming of age game. Because it did so well, Square Enix was like, okay, we're gonna make this into a trilogy now. We're gonna see the evolution of Laura. We're gonna take you on this journey into the Tomb Raider. And we're like, hell yeah, do it. So then they came out with the second game, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which came out in 2015. And the advertisements for the game, they were like, ooh yeah, this is gonna be a darker Laura. She's going through PTSD from the first game. She's gonna be darker. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. We get to see character development. Nope, that did not happen. It was a disappointment. Basically, Rise of the Tomb Raider was a copy and paste of Tomb Raider. She was still very timid. She was still very insecure, doubtful, let people push over her. She wasn't that confident badass yet. And I was just kind of like, after I beat the game, I was like, okay, well maybe the third game she'll, become the Tomb Raider. Well, that didn't happen either. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out in 2018 and was also met with mixed reviews. I actually streamed the game myself last year. And it felt like a fever dream. I don't remember much about it. That's how bland and boring the plot was. Again, absolutely no character development whatsoever, which was really, really sad and very, very disappointing. She was still, again, timid, insecure, let people push her over. She wasn't headstrong. She wasn't like, you know, like, no, fuck you, I do what I want, you know? That wasn't her. And I'm like, you had 3 games to develop this woman's character, and she's still the same. There wasn't any massive changes to this person. It left a lot of fans disappointed and wanting more and confused. Why would Square Enix promise a origin story where we get to see her develop into the character that we know and love, and it just falls flat? There was absolutely nothing. So that's where we're at right now. Like I said, Square Enix said that they were gonna make a trilogy about her and then move forward into her being the Tomb Raider. So I don't know how it's gonna be, seeing as there really wasn't any character development. I'm not sure what route Square Enix wants to take now with the new games that they might be releasing. There isn't any word right now about any Tomb Raider development, since they were too focused on Kingdom Hearts 3, which already been released, and then Final Fantasy 7, which just released. They were putting all of their work on that. Sure, if they might even be in development for a new Tomb Raider game, or if there's any talks about it. But if there is, I really hope that they do better, because the game is beautifully done. Although I don't know about Lara's design, like she was cute in the first one, but she just fucking needs a haircut in the third one. Like, they put too much fucking bangs on her, and it doesn't look right. They fix her hair, it doesn't look right. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I really hope they actually give this woman character development later in the series, if Square Enix does decide to continue with it. If Square Enix doesn't decide to move on with Tomb Raider, I mean, that would suck, but maybe it's for the best, because I don't think Tomb Raider really fits what Square Enix likes to do with their plots and games. So if that's the case, if they don't decide to move on, I can recommend you some Tomb Raider games to play. Definitely play 1 through Revelations, play the Legend trilogy, and play the first Tomb Raider game of the Square Enix trilogy. Those are really, really good Tomb Raider games. If you really want to try Angel of Darkness, I mean, you can. It's a bad game. You might not be able to finish the game. It's a very interesting game. And it sucks because I feel like that game could have gone places. If I remember correctly, I think Core Design, one of the developers, were trying to bring back Angel of Darkness. They made a post. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. They did a post about how Core Design wasn't judged fairly. They didn't have the resources. They were pressured and rushed. People were being very unfair with Core Design, and they want to make it up to the fans and remake Angel of Darkness the way they wanted it to for the fans with new gen engines. Hey, if they can do it, I'm all for it. You know, like I said, Angel of Darkness had a really interesting plot, but you know, Square Enix now owns the right to it, so I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that, but we'll see. That's the whole story of Tomb Raider. She's such an icon. I love her. She's one of the video game characters I really do look up to. She's such a badass. Check out those games that I recommended to you, and comment down below. Have you guys played any of the Tomb Raider games? Do you have a fond memory of a Tomb Raider game? Which one is your favorite Tomb Raider game? Also, what are your thoughts about the new Tomb Raider games, the Square Enix trilogy? Because I can go on forever and rant about those games, like, for a very long time. But this episode's already going too long, so I'm not going to, but let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll know when we upload, which is every Thursday. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, losers.